Hi, our group will be presenting a video project with English literature post-World War II as our theme. Our group consists of Iram, Zarifa, and myself, Carmen. Because of the diversity of this group, each of us will be presenting a topic that is of special interest to us. Iram will start the ball rolling with her overview of postmodernism literature. It will be followed by Zarifa with her perspective on Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. I will then wrap up the presentation with an analysis of a work by a post-colonial writer of the 80s. Stay tuned!
Literature. Actually, the word postmodern literature, this is comprised of two words, post and modern, and it gives us the idea that something which came after the modern age. Actually, the modern age, it is known as like from the late 90s up to the first World War One and around 1930s. And if we talk about the postmodern literature or postmodern age, if we talk about that, it starts from the World War II up to the late 20s. So the postmodern literature, who paved the way of this kind of literature? Actually, the major events of 20th century, they are noticeable, like the First World War and the World War II. Actually, after the First World War One, there was an idea that now there would be peace in the world and everything will go fine. But when, after a few years, there was World War II, and because of this war, the situation of and anxiety, the situation of depression, the questioning, the chaos, it just arose at that time. And after World War II, the situation became chaotic and there was a questioning about the religion and on the morality. There was the questioning on the set beliefs of the society and the culture. And there was the questioning around which was on the authenticity of each and everything. Then after World War II, there was a great suspense and there was a pain everywhere. Actually, after World War One and World War II, the Britain had seen the hunger, the exploitation. They had seen the destruction everywhere, and that destruction actually came in the literature also. That destruction can be seen in the everywhere around the globe and everything. If we talk about the postmodern literature's origin, as I have told before, that there was main thing World War II, and in that World War II there was a situation of the Holocaust. Because of the Holocaust, that just wiped away the Jews from the Germany. There was the evacuation of the Jews from the Germany. It also became a major event, and there was use of the atomic bombs on the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and which had arise the question that nobody was safe and everything can be blasted within few seconds. So it just shaped the beliefs of the people. Then during this age, from the actually the colonization has started long before, but in this age there was a questioning on the colonization, and the colonized countries, they were trying to get their freedom and independence. That also had the impact on the mind of these people. Then the colonization, at that time, most of the countries, they were trying for the independence, and they got in the late during the mid 20s. Like in 1947, in the subcontinent, it got the freedom. Then the Africa, and then the list is long. So there was a colonization and decolonization, and these two things also came in postmodern age and the postmodern literature. If we talk about these were the origins, were the things behind these were the political things which were going on at that time. When at the characteristics of we talk about of the characteristics of the English postmodern literature, first of all, we see that there was the mindset that was based on the abstract, and they focused on the absurdity and the confused state. Their mindset was confused. They embraced the randomness, and there was a rejection of the ideas, and they just reject the idea of the absolute meaning, and they tried to follow the absurdity and abstractness. The writers were playful and they did not focus on the order. Actually, the focus was on the chaos and on the pathos. And it arised the black humor and the situation of the people, like the confusion, the suspense, the fear, the fear of the hopelessness, the dejection, the deprivedness, everything came in, and that became a complete state of mind, which has given them the celebration of being absurd and absurdity. If we talk about the writing techniques of that time, there was the metafiction that the writers had adopted. The writers had adopted the fragmentation, that intersexuality was there in the text, and there was with reconstruction, and most importantly, there was a rejection of the grand narrative. Actually, they adopted a different writing technique, and if we talk about the examples of that writing technique, we can go towards the Waiting for Godot of Samuel Beckett, which was written in 1957. So it's a kind of shift from the modern age towards the postmodern age. We can say that Waiting for Godot is somewhere at the end of the modern age and at the beginning of the postmodern literature. Samuel Beckett in this play actually had turned the table around. He did not use any of the any of the technique which is being used before. This is a fragmented play, and there is the metafiction in this play. There is a rejection of the grand narrative in this play, and this play is a fine example of the postmodern literature. There is the absurdity and the confusion and abstractedness in this play. The characters are confused, and they are presenting the characters of the postmodern literature, who are away from the religion, who are away from the happiness, who are being complex, who are roaming around, who don't have any hope on everything, who don't hope on the future, but they don't rely on they don't hope, and they are not interested to get any kind of knowledge. Actually, at this time there was the hippie culture, and there was the angry young man. This was being developed. Hippie culture, like, they were more focused towards the fashion, towards the sexuality, towards the time being happiness of the time, because they were afraid of the war and they did not know that when this war can explode again. So they wanted to enjoy their movement. They wanted to enjoy their momentous life. So that's why the hippie culture was developing at that time, which can be seen in the different literary works. But at his age, it was not an age when the English literature was only concised in Britain. Actually, at this time, because of all these events, the literature had gone out of the boundaries of the Britain, and there were the American writers who were writing in English, there were the African writers writing in English, there were the Scotlandians, Ireland writers, there were the writers of from Africa, from India.
Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. Contents: author bio, introduction, themes, analysis, conclusion. Adelina Virginia Woolf, born 25th January 18, died 20th March 1941, was an English writer. She is considered one of the most important modernist 20th century authors and a pioneer in the use of stream of consciousness as a narrative device. She completed her studies from King's College London in history and classics. Her best known works include the novels Mrs. Dalloway 1925, To the Lighthouse 1927, and Old London 1928. She is also known for essays such as A Room of One's Own 1929. Introduction. Mrs. Dalloway is a novel by Virginia Woolf, published on 14th May 1925. It tells a day in the life of Clarissa Dalloway, a fictional upper-class woman in post-World War England. Throughout the day, many incidents happen which makes Clarissa and other characters question their life worth and existence. There is also a death which brings the whole story into perspective and ends with a party. A famous quote from the novel is, "She had the perpetual sense as she watched the taxi cabs of being out, far out to sea and alone. She always had the feeling that it was very, very dangerous to leave him one day. In this quote, Virginia Woolf wants to say that when Clarissa Dalloway was out buying flowers, she saw the cabs on the street and she realized that it was very dangerous to be out there because any minute you may die, and this foreshadows the death that happens later in the story. Themes. There are some of the themes in Mrs. Dalloway: privacy, loneliness and communication, social criticism, psychology and perception, death, feminism, identity crisis. Privacy, loneliness and communication. Almost everyone in the novel is lonely in some way or other. They have achieved everything, but in their private life they have no one to communicate with and share their thoughts. The main protagonist of the novel is a good example. She has everything one wants but has nobody to communicate with or share. Another protagonist, Peter Wash, constantly feels lonely and blames himself for everything. Here in Mrs. Dalloway, basically all the characters have loneliness and communication because they have nobody to share their thoughts with or discuss about their life with, and they feel lonely and there is loss of communication. Social criticism. All the characters in the story are afraid of social criticism. Clarissa is constantly criticized by her husband Richard and friend Peter about her party throwing skills and being a hostess. Clarissa Dalloway, the main character of the novel, is constantly criticized by her husband and her friend Peter because her only ability is to throw parties, host parties, and live the life of a rich woman. And her husband Richard and Peter thinks that she's wasting her life doing this instead of doing something else. Peter is constantly criticized by Clarissa for falling in love with new people. Peter in the novel falls in love with a new woman every day, so Clarissa criticizes him about falling in love so easily. Mrs. Bruton is afraid of being a woman and being interested in politics and parliament. Mrs. Bruton is a rich old lady who is constantly afraid of being criticized or put down by others for interest in manliness and manly talk like politics and parliament. Psychology and perception. Throughout the day, we can hear everybody's thinking, process, and thoughts. This is also a stream of consciousness used by Virginia Woolf and other writers of the modernist era. In this stream of consciousness, basically, we can hear the thoughts. We can hear the thoughts of the people who actually speak. All the writers are concerned about themselves, and others think about them. Clarissa, while buying flowers, thinks about her mundane life and how she was before she got married. Septimus, while walking in the park with his wife, thinks about the war and how he lost his friend and the horrific events of the war which shaped his life. Peter Wash, while walking through London streets, recalls how life was before he came to London again, his life in India, and how he met somebody there and everything. Richard on his way to Lady Burton's luncheon. While on his way to Lady Burton's luncheon, Richard thinks about his life and how he is going to talk about politics with Lady Burton and how Hugh will be at the party and other things. Hugh at Lady Burton's lunch. Hugh at Lady Burton's lunch is jealous of Richard because he thinks that Richard is a better man and Lady Burton is more impressed with Richard.
Hi, today I'm going to present a presentation on English literature in the 1980s. The novel that I'm going to present is titled The Remains of the Day, published in 1989 by Kazuo Ishiguro. Kazuo Ishiguro was born in Nagasaki, Japan in the year 1954. His family migrated to England in 1960. Now, during his childhood in England, he always thought that his family would return to Japan one day, but the fact that they never did. He went to University of Kent, at Canterbury and also the University of East Anglia. After graduating, he rose pretty quickly to fame. He is awarded the Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1995 for his accomplishments and services to literature, and he's also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. In 1998, he was awarded the Chevalier d'Or des Arts et des Lettres by the government of France. His work has also been translated into more than 30 languages. In 2017, he received the Nobel Prize for Literature. I will go through Ishiguro's work. A Pale View of Hills in 1982 was awarded the Winifred Haughville Prize from the Royal Society of Literature. And this novel was set in Nagasaki and tells of a Japanese female protagonist where she's trying to cope with trauma of her daughter's suicide. His next work is An Artist of the Floating World, published in the 1986. He managed to get an award, the Whitbread Book of the Year in 1986, and was also shortlisted for the Booker Prize. This novel is set in the post-World War II and focused on a former Japanese artist who recalls his haunting past in the military. Ishiguro's next work, which is the focus of today's presentation, The Remains of the Day, published in 1989. He was awarded the Booker Prize for 1989 for his work, and this novel is set in 1956 in England. It is about an English butler. His name is Stevens. He's serving for his master, Mr. Faraday, an American, in a huge England mansion called the Darlington Hall. Now, The Remains of the Day was made into an Oscar-winning movie, and the main cast of this movie is the renowned Anthony Hopkins with his female lead Emma Thompson. Right, why do I pick this novel for this presentation? Now, the tone of this novel is, we can see that it is very proper and with formal diction and with a lot of English locutions, which give us a hint of its nostalgic element as well as regret. And the setting during the time is the early 1920s until 1956. With special focus on the period leading up to World War II. Then the place of where the novel is set is in Darlington Hall, as well as Stevens' road trip through the West Country to Little Compton, a place called Little Compton in Cornwall. And of course, the theme is something very relevant, which is about dignity and greatness, as well as regret and loss. The Remains of the Day is commonly known as a post-imperialist work because its protagonist is very nostalgic for the English way of life before the World War II. Although we see that this novel is not really relevant to World War II, because it is very much about human regret. A lot of Ishiguro's work are branded post-colonial novels. However, The Remains of the Day does not really fit into this category. Now, although he is of Japanese heritage, but then again, his background in this aspect is not really relevant to the plot or to. His novels mainly describe an individual's memories of his personal life, how it was changed by the Second World War. And what comes with it is the regret and feeling of sorrow. Although Ishiguro never referred to himself as an exile, But the theme of exile and expatriation plays a very important role in a lot of his work. We'll now look at the historical background of the novel. Um, Both the World War One and the World War Two has a very significant impact on this novel because this takes place between these major world war. And the narrative is very much confined to a butler's experience of the outer world from how he sees it from within the mansion. For the overview of the plot, this novel is told in the first-person narration of an English butler by the name of Stevens. Now, in July 1956, he has decided to take a 6-day road trip to the west country of England. It is a region to the west of Darlington Hall. Darlington Hall is the house where Stephen has been living, and he has worked as a butler for about 34 years. The narrative is actually made up of Stephen's memories of how his work was before and after World War II. So the novel actually ends with Stephen spending 2 evenings at the Weymouth, reflecting on his past life with a very deep regret of his actions and attitude. Okay, for this novel, I would like to explore the themes of emotional repression and self-denial in the protagonist as the quintessential English gentleman. I would like to take a look at the term gentleman. Now, when we hear the term gentleman, we might think of Englishness, of class, of masculinity, of elegance in manners as well as morals. But we would also think of hypocrisy, even repression, outdated behavior, just fitting the characters of a Victorian novel, but something that no longer serve any value or purpose in the society of today. Now, what is a true gentleman or the gentleman of manners? It can be defined as his outstanding ideas, his work, his speeches, as well as his gracious and gentle behavior, often admired by a lot of people. He also dedicates his own life for the benefit of mankind. Basically, he lives for others. Their happiness, their comfort, and their welfare is more important than his own. Basically, he forgets about his own enjoyment. He's real generous and benevolent human being. His only dream is to see that all the people living in harmony should live in harmony and peace. Well, we can say that he is a real peacemaker. Um, However, such a man may also be hated or pushed out of his community, forced to live alone in a state of non-communication with his own people or family. He may even be humiliated or be killed. He is a hero. Explore the themes of repression and denial. I will use the conceptual framework of Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis uh, of using the concept of repression and denial. Now, according to Freud, the essence of repression lies simply in turning something away and keeping it at a distance from the conscious mind. A defense mechanism where fending off which prevents incompatible ideas, and then it triggers unpleasurable feeling, for example, shame, pain, or even self-reproach from associating with our conscious thoughts. According to Freud, denial is a defense mechanism. It happens when a person faces a fact that is just too unpleasing to accept, and because of that, he rejects it, despite having evidence. There are a few types of denial. Denial of fact is when someone make a lie just to avoid a fact. Another one is denial of impact, when a person just refuses to think about the implication or the damage of what he has done on himself as well as on others. This is to avoid the feeling of guilt and remorse on himself. Another one is, we call it denial of denial, which involve the thoughts or behavior that there is nothing that needs to be changed or there is nothing that needs to be done. So this is more of self-delusion, and can have a very significant implications on the person himself as well as to society. In the novel that we're going to analyze, Stephen actually has undergone a few types of repressions. Here we can see is that he represses how he feels about his attraction to Miss Kenton. In the text here, he has asked me to marry him. I thought you had a right to know that. So Miss Kenton told him the news that someone has proposed to her, and she delivered the news to Stevens. So the fact is, events of a global significance are taking place in this house at this very moment. This is spoken by Stevens, all right, and he told Miss Kenton that I appreciate your kindness, but this is not a room of entertainment. I'm happy to have distractions kept to a minimum. So Stevens, although he likes Miss Kenton very much, his response to the news of Miss Kenton's proposal is that, wow, it's very interesting. He is not very much affected by the sudden news of someone proposing to the woman he loves. And when later on Miss Kenton told him the shocking news that she has accepted the marriage proposal, again Stephen represses this shocking discovery that he found of her, and although he just give her congratulate her on that. Now, Stephen's repressed feelings to Miss Kenton are as he would bury the pain and disappointment in him, as this hurts him so much to even want to think about it. He has often used his professional duty here, his professional suit, that he is obliged to carry out his duty, so therefore he should not express his feelings because he's on duty as a butler. So what he does is he conceals his feelings in order to help him in his repression. So he put on a face that he's not interested in Miss Kenton's appointment with her acquaintance, just as an excuse that there is a grand event happening in the house. And he emphasized to Miss Kenton that the fact that there is an important event will make him feel better with the fact that he is carrying out his task to ensure that everything goes on smoothly. So as what Freud says, pleasurable experiences are often used to downplay any unpleasant situations faced. So for Stephen to disengage himself from showing any kind of attraction or sexual preference to Miss Kenton, Stephen dislikes when he sees flowers, he gets agitated. So the display or the appearance of flowers that agitate him is also a form of repression. Stephen also experienced repression of grief. Here he says that he's very busy. When Miss Kenton delivers the news to him that his father is no longer around. So to do otherwise, I feel, would be to let him down. I'll explain that in a while. So when he say that he is very busy, Stephen does not display or show any form of sadness about his father's death. All he could say is that I see. And he also later on, he doesn't want to see his father's body. The excuse he gives is that he's very busy. He justifies his coldness by saying that his father would have wanted him to carry on with his professional task first before attending to anything which is personal to him. That is when he says, to do otherwise, I feel, would be to let him down. So if he were to do anything that is personal, it would disappoint his father if he actually neglects his professional duty. So for Stephen to cover or mask his sorrow, he does that with his loyalty to his profession. So to him, this seems to be a very effective way to reduce the pain that he feels because he has lost his father, and he considers his father as a great butler. So by saying that his father would approve of his strong sense of responsibility and professionalism, so he said that. So instead of tending to his deceased father, so to Stephen, it serves to uphold his dignity as a butler. So he, in many times, he put his profession above anything, above his family, and also above himself. So in this aspect, Freud argued that repression lies in turning something away. In this case, the grief of losing his great father and keeping the fact at a distance from the conscious mind. So he would not want to allow the loss of his father to affect him. So to do that, the best way is to wear a mask. So the best thing is to do that under the pretext of, yeah, I have a professional duty or obligation to do my part. So this is what Stephen used throughout the novel to kind of rescue him from the many sticky situations that he faced. So I also have, we can see here also, he represses his love towards his father. Despite acknowledging, knowing that his father was once the great butler of England, he fails to see his father on his deathbed, his very last moments, although he has a lot of opportunities to do so. So the day his father dies is also the day when his master organizes a very important conference in the house. So for Stephen, he puts his master first. He feels that he should serve his master with full of dedication. So to him, he will place more importance. To continue on this, there are further evidence how Stephen represses his love towards his father. Here he says that, please don't think me unduly improper in not ascending the stairs to see my father in his deceased condition. You see, I know my father would have wished me to carry on just now. He claims to be busy when Miss Kenton tells her his father passed away, and he quickly hurries back to the conference downstairs. Again, he uses his professional duty as a justification for his behavior, which he insists this doesn't mean that he is not filial to his father. Well, another theme that is explored is denial. Stephen also faces denial of his father's death. Here he said that I had expected the room to smell of death, but on account of Mrs. Mortimer or else her apron, the room was dominated by the smell of roasting. So very clearly we can see that he is in denial that his father has died. This implies metaphorically that there is no sorrow whatsoever in the air after his father's death, except that because he says that it smells of food roasting. So he's trying to say that things are just going on as usual, right? He is not able to accept the death of a great butler. So that is why he say that. He would like to think that the order of the day still maintains without any disturbance to the event. So he doesn't want the death of a dear father to disrupt the event. So at this stage, his denial of the death of a great father is downplayed by him using the kitchen. So again, this is also related to his duty as a butler. So he is denying the impact of the death, impact of the death of his father on his professional, conduct as a great butler. So he actually has done this really well. So it's to him he's unfazed by all this. He experienced also denial of impact. So the text here says where the sight of his figure pushing a trolley loaded with cleaning utensils, mops and brushes, so that it resembled a street hawker's barrow. So his denial of his father's death is quite ironical, considering the fact that he contemplates to deny that his father has failed as a butler. He is denying the greatness of his aging father, who was serving as a footman prior to his death. He does so through his distancing from his father, while identifying himself with his master, whom he idolized more. So more on his denial of the impact. Here, what he say is that although we did not see a great deal of the country in the sense of touring the countryside and visiting picturesque sites, did actually see more of England than most, placed as we were in houses where the greatest ladies and gentlemen of the land gathered. It has been my privilege to see the best of England over the years, sir, within these four walls. He is saying that he can see England without leaving the house. So he is reluctant to leave Darlington Hall for his trip that he has planned. So he say that he doesn't want to leave for the trip because to him he has seen enough of England. He used his interaction and his job, his service to the many guests, the visitors, the ladies and the gentlemen. He used that as his excuse that he has seen a lot of England. So this shows that he is in denial, that all this while he has been cooped up in a very restrained space for many decades and desperately needs to go out to have more exposure of the outside real world. So that the analysis from there is that Stephen is delusionary that the house, Darlington Hall, represents England, and the ladies and the gentlemen visitors that he has served all this while within the house, they are indeed, to him, they are the people of England. So this delusion could stem from his dignity he possesses as a butler, who is not just confined to the four walls of where he works, but that he is also entrusted to serve the great aristocrats that come from all over the world. So his prejudiced view that he's not although he is not able to see the real England, so it is not an issue for him. That is the reason of denial. This view, of course, meets his realization of the opposite at the end of his trip. So the conclusion I can draw from here is that the protagonist in this novel has lived a life filled with repressions and denials. So as an Englishman in the post-World War II era, Stephen faces what we call an identity crisis. So because of this, he resorts to denial and also repression in his duty as a butler. He can only very sadly identify himself to his master's identity as the Lord, yeah, and he is the butler. So he is always donning his professional suit, which kind of like blind him. So because of carrying on his professional duty, he's not able to express his true love, or even not able to be closer to his father. So it is when he goes on his trip, when he goes out of the house, venture into the West Country. So this venturing out is a metaphor used by Ishiguro, where he begins to realize that in the past he has made a lot of mistakes. So this trip symbolizes the present and also an awakening of what could have been accomplished if not for the delusionary past that he has. So his life has very much failed in many situations. So Stephen often uses his dignity as, oh, I'm a great butler. He always used that as an excuse to justify his behavior. The conflicts he faces explain the many times that he is inconsistent in his behavior. To me, to a certain extent, I feel that Stephen befits a quintessential English gentleman by virtue of his selfless devotion to his master. So he seems to live only for his master. His happiness and dignity lies with the fact that he fulfills his role as a butler to his master. So the day his lordship's work is complete, the day he's able to rest on his laurels, will I be able to call myself a well-contented man? An extract from the novel. Positive, in a positive way, in the end, despite his failure, the many blunders that he has made in the past, Stevens has finally come to terms that he will try his best of what remains of the day. So with this, thank you for listening. And these are my references.